Welcome to Exploring the Paranormal. Hosted by Heather Leigh, PhD, Exploring the Paranormal offers a new, fresh look into paranormal research. Join Heather as she discusses some of the many haunted locations worldwide, discusses why these locations are haunted, hear from paranormal researchers about their personal experiences at these locations. Additionally, Heather takes a journey into the science behind the paranormal, discussing topics such as thermodynamics and the Heisenberg principle and how they both affect paranormal activity. Now, your host of Exploring the Paranormal, Dr. Heather Leigh.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful Tuesday morning. I know a lot of people I've been seeing on Facebook, and I was just talking to someone. They were talking about it's being cold up there. So stay warm if you guys are in cold areas, or if you're here in Florida with me, get out of the house and enjoy this beautiful weather that we're having right now. But again, welcome to the show. I am excited to be talking today. I have an amazing guest. She's a wonderful person. Nicole will be joining us in about a half hour. She is an author. She has a podcast, just an all-around great person. And I cannot wait to share that. So when I invited her to be on the show, I was trying to figure out what topic I should talk about. Because you guys know I always like to do my topics based on my guest. And it was weird because I was like, well, I could talk about, I think some of her experiences included, Alcatraz. She has a lot of investigations in California. And I'm like, well, I didn't really want to just do any one specific location because I wanted her to talk about her experiences. So what I wanted to talk about today is writing a book. The one question I get all the time is, hey, Heather, when's your next book coming out? Do you have any books? I get that question a lot too. And my first book came out just this past August. It Haunted Southern Nevada Ghost Towns. I would love to show you guys a copy, but I sold out and the shipment should be here today. So maybe it'll arrive while we're live today. And but I did just finally finish submitting. They changed the title, so bear with me. It's Ghosts and Legends of the Vegas Valley. So it includes Las Vegas, Henderson, Red Rock Canyon. I think I also included Blue Diamond, which is where Bonnie Springs Ranch was at. And it's just a whole bunch of different legends is what I wanted to talk about in that book. And it covers, mob burial sites and, mob stories and and personal experiences that I've had at several of those locations. And then the next question that I get, and moving forward, I'm just working on my next book, which is Haunted Florida Lighthouses, which is going to be absolutely amazing. But the other question I get is, Heather, where do you get your ideas from? Basically, I've been a writer since I started working for a local newspaper at 16, covering sports. I was big into sports, but not as big as I thought I would be. And the funniest thing about this is I love this story, and a lot of people like to chuckle about it, is I was asked to cover the high school football game. And I was like, I know nothing about football. I just, yay, cheer them on, move forward type of thing, because I was a cheerleader back then too. And I ended up in the library researching for hours, everything related to football. And this was when we had to go to the library to get that information. I couldn't just quickly look it up on my phone and figure out how to report on football. And then I started, reading other people's articles on how they formatted it, how they wrote it. And it all fell into place after that point. And the reason why I wanted to share that story is because when it comes to writing a paranormal book, you need to do the research, do the legwork. It's not, you want to include personal experiences, of course. That's what makes paranormal books better, because it gives a connection to the reader to the author. And it also shares experiences that might not be commonly found on the internet. There were several experiences that I had at locations in the Las Vegas area that was nowhere to be found anywhere on the internet. So it kind of offers an opportunity for you to share something new, something fresh. And when it comes to researching, there are so many different ways that you guys can research to make your book better. When it's paranormal, you want to do more than just what was it? Someone we were joking around at a convention I was at a couple months ago, and he referred to them as armchair researchers, which I'm sure everybody hears a lot. But I thought that was kind of funny because I've run into several books where you can tell that they had no personal connection with the locations that they were writing about, that they just pulled everything off the internet, and they might have made a phone call or two for an interview. And it still made for an interesting read because I love reading about anything paranormal. But you need to make sure that you include that personal connection somehow in there, whether it's interviewing. The other thing I did for my books is I interviewed paranormal researchers and included their stories and included their photos in the book. So that offers a personal connection, that it's not just you talking to the reader, it's the people you've interviewed. And for the site, you can do more than just research the history. What I mean by the history is when it was built, how long it's been there, and the structure. Kind of paint a picture. One person told me when I was doing some writing is, instead of actually doing research and reading, or Googling or whatever you do for research, is to look at the images. So you Google search the name, and then instead of going into the articles or the websites, just go straight up to images. At the top you have the news, images, and all of that. Go straight to images and write what you see. Write what the building looks like. Write the feeling you get from looking at the building. Try to create that personal connection with the site that you're writing about. And that kind of helps you develop your book with a little bit more imagery, a little bit more color. And it really makes your stories pop. And good morning, Jeff. How are you doing? And it's really that personal connection. And I know I can't stress that enough, because that's the one thing, even though this is going to segue into another thing with the writing. I've been writing books, first book published just recently. So of course, never give up. I did submit some of my early books when I was younger to agents, and they've been shelved ever since. I've written several other books in between. I never even moved forward with them. So it was one of those things where it's like, everyone has a great story that someone's dying to read. So you want to make sure that you get that story out, share your experiences, and don't just sit on it. Do everything you can to get your book published. There's so many avenues nowadays that once you exhaust all the other avenues, whether it's a publisher, an agent, or anything like that, self-publish. I'm not saying that's the first option, because I like the idea of having a team of editors behind me, double checking everything that I do. But you can always self-publish if you have to. Get your story out. Tell other people, what you have to share, because I'm sure you have some information that someone else doesn't have, because paranormal experiences are individual. Not everybody has the same experience. And like I said, that's how I discovered in Vegas. There's so many places that people are like, oh, X, Y, and Z happens. And yeah, that might have happened, but so much more happened than just that. So just get your story out. Do not hesitate. If it wasn't for my book that isn't out already, but the one that I just submitted, I did dedicate it to my friend, Peter Haviland, and he passed away last year. And he was the one who told me, submit my ideas to the History Press, tell them what stories I had. And I did it because of him. And I'm amazed that the team of people that are there and everything that's going on, to do that. So the History Press was one place that I found that works for me, but everyone has their own place that works for them. One thing that I tell people, whether it's paranormal or regular books, and I'm just going to use the book that I'm going to talk about in a minute real quick, is when you're writing a book, go to either the library. I would suggest going to a bookstore, because more recent books, because if you go to the library, there might be publishing houses that are no longer publishing. And look at the spine of the book, okay? Or even, look inside the book and go to the genre that you're publishing in. If it's romance, go to romance. If it's comedy, if it's nonfiction, if it's paranormal, go wherever you would buy a book. Go to the department that you would buy your book in, and look to see who the publisher is. I have lists of publishers from doing that are backup, just in case the History Press doesn't want a book that I'm writing. And if you Google search them or go to their websites, they usually will have a submissions button. You can click it. A lot of the major publishers only accept submissions through an agent, but a lot of the smaller publishers, such as the History Press, I think this was Stellium Books, they do all their own publishing direct with the authors. So do that research, and you might be surprised as to what you can find out. And it's really interesting what's out there. And then when you're writing your book, read as much as you can about what other people are putting out there. I mean, I have a book, actually, real quick, let me reach over here. Before I finished my first book with History Press, I bought several of their books. Because History Press is owned by Arcadia Publishing. So I bought a couple of their books. Like here's this one, Ghost Towns and Mining Camps of Southern Nevada. And it was not only references for what I was writing, but I was able to see the style of how they wrote for them. And then part of the Haunted History series, I picked up, Haunted Florida Love Stories. And this gave me an idea of the storytelling that they do. How they, place photos, what type of photos they look for. And it just kind of offers a whole bunch of information. And, you always want to write what works best for you, but knowing how other people write kind of opens your eyes. You can see that there's more than one way to do something. It gives you an idea to their, style of writing. I mean, History Press, they'll send you a whole style guidebook, but until you actually read it and see it in action, it really doesn't click. And going back to researching, I know I'm jumping all over the place here, but I wanted to talk about places where you can get information to enhance your book, because you can have a personal experience and at a location. So like one example was, I'm drawing a blank here now on the location that I was going to refer to, but let's just say like the Clark County Museum out in Henderson. Several paranormal experiences there by staff members and by people, you can find some stuff on the internet. I've had several personal experiences there, but they really don't share too much because they don't want to be haunted. So, but when it comes to the site, and because this particular location, they actually had buildings from all around Southern Nevada that they've moved to this and created Heritage Street. And you can go in and out of these homes to see what life was like back then. Go to places like that. Even if the location isn't haunted, go there, because if you go to a museum, you can talk to the curator, get information about all the different locations. They have historical books, they have historical records. So much information can be found at your local museum that you were going to come home with abundance of information. And then going back to the interviews, because I know I mentioned it briefly that some of the staff members talked about it, is if you want to talk about a location, is go there and then just in conversation be like, hey, is anything, there's several reports of paranormal activity here. Have you experienced anything strange? Strike up a conversation, be friendly, be approachable. Don't come across as too overbearing, but just be like, hey, I've heard that X, Y, and Z happens here. Is that true? Have you experienced it? Try to get confirmation on the experiences that people have. And then in addition to the museum that you can go to is the local libraries. Most libraries, such as I can't remember which one it was, but it wasn't the Las Vegas libraries. But when I was researching for Haunted Southern Nevada Ghost Towns, there was a library further up north, and they have all of their archive material online, easily accessible. Other locations, you have to go there to access the information. You can also submit a request via email. They'll research it and send you the information for you. And that's what these libraries are there for. Local Chamber of Commerces, they have lots of information. Some Chamber of Commerces have like a mini museum you can walk through to get information on the history. You never know what you might find there. Historical societies, if you're not in the direct area, email them, ask them for questions. And then, of course, you have the local newspaper archives. And a lot of this information, thanks to the internet, is available online or within an email. So it's really easy to get. One place that I get a lot of information and a lot of photos is from the Library of Congress. It's an amazing database. You can find everything there, from newspaper articles to brochures to photos to documents. Everything's there that you can get your information from. Also, the New York Public Library Archives, they have a lot of information there that's easy to search. I think archive.org, let me just double check to make sure that was the one, archive.org. Yep. Archive.org is a great place to get information. Rare and early newspapers. I don't have the website offhand, but I believe it was, if you Google search rare and early newspapers, the website will come up. With this one, you can still get some really good information from them, but a lot of it is paid. Some of it's paid. You either need a subscription for that particular site. And then, like I had said, books. Do you write and then look for a publisher? So it all depends on what you want to do. Some publishers want to have sample chapters in advance. I know with the History Press, I had to have a topic, and it went through several steps. Like, I had a topic, I emailed them my topic idea, or on their online form. I sent them my topic idea. The publisher for my region got back to me and said, "We're interested in your topic. Can you please fill out this form?" It was like a 20-page form, or at least it felt like it. And they want to know everything from, your writing experience to how you're going to help promote the book. And then they wanted sample chapters. So it you need to have the sample chapters ahead of time. I know other places, they just want, the ideas, but it's always best to have, I would say, 3 to 5 sample chapters, because that's what most ask for. But because most people want to move fast, you probably should have about 50% of the book written before you start reaching out to publishers. And from that point in time, if they say, yes, we're a go, you can move pretty quick and definitely have the whole book outlined. But things change. Things are different sometimes. Like with my last book from History Press, they extended my deadline because of some things that were happening here. And, but it was like, they still wanted it done fast. And I never would have gotten it done if I didn't have my outline before suggesting the topic. So, and that's one of those things where once you get in with a publisher, you can start suggesting topics without having the book. And then they'll give you a deadline, and it kind of moves on a rolling basis. But if you ever want to talk, Jeff, I know you and I need to talk anyway soon. Just let me know. I'm more than happy to sit down and talk with you more. And I'm trying to think of some other publishers that, I think it's Pelican Publishing, but they require sample chapters. Some publishers require the whole book up front. And you just kind of need to, oh, you're welcome, Jeff. I'll be here. You just kind of got to be on top of it. Know what you want to write about. Have that list. I mean, I'll just walk you guys through while we're waiting for my guests, I'll just walk you guys through my writing process. Is once I have the subject approved, and even before I have it approved, I have several other books that I'm working on, hoping History Press picks it up, is I get the topic, and what I do is I start laying out the book the way that they would want it laid out. Like I'll have one page for the dedication, then the next page for the foreword. I'll set up my the index in the beginning for the chapters, then the introduction. And then what I do is each chapter, so let's say for like the Haunted Florida Lighthouses, what I'm doing is I took each lighthouse that I know is haunted. I then researched it all. And I basically saved all the websites, all the books, and all the reference material in the Google Doc that I'm working in. And then I move on to the next chapter, or the next book, the next location. And then I did some just basic generic research, Haunted Florida lighthouses. Some lighthouses came up that I had no idea were haunted. And I added those towards the end of the book with the information that I found. And then what I do is I go through and I I'll pick the information that I need for the book and just kind of make notes, plug it in, very rough notes. It's, it's just like the dates and a whole bunch of stuff. I'll do that for all of them. And then I'll start back at the top and I'll start putting it in paragraph form. And then while I'm putting it in paragraph, actually in between the getting the notes and doing the paragraph form, if I feel I need more information on a particular chapter, I'll conduct further research. I'll look for more experiences. I'll maybe go to the location and see if there's something there that I missed, talk to the people who work there, and do that. So then from there, those in paragraph form, and then I'll run it through the Grammarly before I send it in, and I'll proofread it one more time myself. And during the process, I'm also thinking about photos that need to be put in there, and I mark it with just a little red statement, insert image 1, insert image 2, and that's all you need. And then on a separate page, you have the captions and who took the photo and all of that. And you just kind of go from there. Once you get all that done, I send it off to the publisher. They edit it, send it back to me, let me know if I need to make any more changes. I send it back. The editing process is time consuming because I think last book they had me read it 3 or 4 times before they actually published it. So it's just a back and forth, and any questions, any things that get done. But I love having the publisher because they handle marketing materials. They send me posters, postcards. They handle all the design, all the layout, and all of that stuff. If I had self-published, which there's nothing wrong with it, and Nicole's going to talk about that quite a bit because she does a lot of self-publishing. I love it because they handle all the stuff that I'm not good at. And then from that point in time, I promote it. And as far as promoting, you want to make sure you have fun ways to promote it. Instead of buy my book, buy my book, buy my book, you want to kind of have fun ways to do it. So like what I'll do on my Facebook pages is I'll go through my book, pull out a location. So let's say for Vegas, I use Madame Tussauds. And I just create an image in Canva. I put a photo from Madame Tussauds that I have, and then just not even a paragraph, like 2 or 3 sentences about something unique about Madame Tussauds that's in the book. And I'll share that and be like, if you want more information, this is I'm covering Madame Tussauds in my book. Excuse me. And, but check out the information that I found. Be creative when it comes to promoting your book. And the other thing too is when it comes to book signings, again, authors, be creative, is you don't have to do your standard library, bookstore, or anything like that. I have a book signing, not this weekend, but next weekend at an antique store. And it's not even in Nevada. It's here in Florida. So a Florida antique store wants me to do a book signing for a book that I wrote in Nevada. So, if it is site specific, you want to try to do as much as you can near where you wrote the book about, but don't be afraid to talk to people to try to get into their store to do a book signing. You can, I'm trying to think of all the different places that I've talked. Oh, send press releases out. Even if you're in my situation where I had originally signed the contracts and wrote the books in Nevada, but then ended up coming to Florida, still send out press releases. Instead of saying, hey, check out these amazing, locations in Nevada, say local author, writes X, Y, and Z, and send it to the radio stations, newspapers, local libraries, local businesses. If you know of any businesses that might be interested, businesses that are interested in paranormal book signings include, of course, you have, local museums, antique malls, antique stores are a perfect place to do it. And if you have, like I have a shelf at this antique mall, put some books in there. You have to pay the store a commission in some cases, but it's only, for me, I think it's only like a couple, like 23 to 25 cents for each book that I sell. So it's not that much. I'm trying to think of some other things. Of course, if it's a paranormal related book, Halloween is a busy time. I'm lucky enough that I actually had to take, well, not lucky enough because it's not getting me anywhere right now, but I had to take time off and I'm not really going to get active until the next week or two. But you think about Halloween, look for trunk or treats. I mean, if you set up, sometimes trunk or treats are usually free to get in, but sometimes they'll charge $25. And in addition to, you can have your display there, with all of because some people, you decorate your car, of course, always make it attractive and fun, theme it around what your book is, and have postcards. I wish I had a postcard nearby to show you, but have postcards. And if you don't work for a publisher, make postcards. What I'll do is I'll post, actually the postcard I have, even though this isn't my book, if this were my book, the postcard would just be this. And then on the back of the postcard, it would have all of the information on how to order my book. So make them. You can easily make them, print them at Staples. You can print them at home if you wanted to. I know when I've done some other stuff, I ordered, I printed right at Walgreens and had them print the photo glossies, but nothing was on the back, unfortunately. Find a local printer. And local printers are great places to do book signings too. Kind of go there. One thing you could also do is like my book signing in 2 weeks. I'm donating, in exchange for them letting me do that, I'm donating 10% of the book sales to one of the local charities that this place supports. So find a local charity, offer to do a book sale, a book signing, and then they get a percentage of the sales. Popular places would be, animal shelters, historical societies, a whole bunch. I'm trying to, food shelters, you name it. There's so many places you could do that. And then also in the paranormal field, I can't believe I didn't think of this one, but it's probably because we don't have many nearby, is metaphysical stores. Any place that sells, crystals, herbs, incense, there's a whole bunch, like out in Vegas, there's a whole bunch that when I get back out there that I'm going to be doing signings at. And it's just be creative, think outside of the box and make things happen. It's there. Ask friends and family. They might know places that you could go, or if any friends or family own. I'm trying to think. I know it wasn't a paranormal book, but a friend of mine, she did a book signing at a local beauty salon. You can basically do just about anything. And then of course, if you have a location included in your book, reach out to that location and see if you can do a book signing there. For example, if you've written a book about Alcatraz, and also watch these places for events. You never know, especially at Halloween time. If they're hosting an event, ask if you can set up a table. Sometimes there's a small fee associated with it. Sometimes there's not. Reach out to your local libraries and offer to do a presentation on your book. Share your information. And I know in the beginning it's a lot of free stuff, but in the end, it definitely pays off, especially as you start selling more and more books. So real quick, my guest should be here any minute. And if not, I will text her to find out where she's at. But before we welcome Nicole to the show, the book I wanted to talk about, I had shared this a little bit earlier, The Glare. It's God, Ghosts, and the Paranormal Ministry by Reverend Sean Whittington. This man, I love him to death. He's amazing. He actually wrote my foreword for my Vegas book. I met him, actually, we've never met face-to-face, but I was put in contact with him a couple years ago regarding a possible demonic case that we were handling out in Vegas. So I reached out to him because he was local. And ever since then, he's been on my shows. I've been on his shows. I want to try to get him on this show, but it's 10:30 in the morning here in Florida, which makes it 7:30 his time. So that's kind of a bit challenging, but maybe one day I'll get him on here. And this book shares, he also has a new one that's just coming out. I need to make sure I get that one. But this book, he shares his paranormal journey. It includes different prayers and instructions on how to do home blessings if you're in need of it. He also talks about a real exorcism and extreme paranormal cases that he and his wife did. His wife, Sharon, has more than 40 years experience in the paranormal, and she is also a minister. And they're just an amazing couple. So if you guys get a chance, if you go to his website, I think it was ghostbegone.biz. I'll make sure I put this on my website for you guys too. But it's ghost-b, just the letter B, -gone.biz. If you order it from his website, he usually will send cute little gifts with it. He'll autograph it, or you can order it from Amazon, but it doesn't come with any of the extra goodies. But I did notice it was on sale on Amazon right now. So that is an amazing book. Sean's an amazing person. And that brings us to our first break. Hopefully when I come back, we'll have my guest here, and we'll see you guys in a few minutes after this break.
Certified psychic medium Stephanie Lynn creates an authentic connection between the living and the spirit world. Stephanie knows she is here to help heal, educate, and provide validation that there is more after death, and allows herself to be a conduit and work as a team with spirit to pass on messages from their world to ours. Stephanie Lynn also works as a spiritual life coach to help you achieve, create, and manifest your best self and life. Looking for help communicating with an animal? Searching for a past life regression therapist? Or dealing with a paranormal experience? Stephanie Lynn is here to help. For a list of full services, visit her on Facebook under Stephanie Lynn Spirit Sensitive. That's Stephanie Lynn Spirit Sensitive.
Hello, everyone. I'm still waiting for Nicole to join us, and and they're going to bring her on as soon as possible. I did put out a request to see if anyone else is available, and I have a few others that might join us to chat while we wait for her to join. Like I said, there was some confusion there because she is Pacific time and I'm Eastern time. And I actually do have someone who is going to join, so just give me a few minutes. I'm sorry. And that's actually Jeff. He was in the comments, so he'll be a great person to have on here. And I will do that. So I'm sorry to be doing this while we're talking. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask. I'm always happy to help out in any way I can, especially when it comes to books. So if you guys want to write a book, do not hesitate reaching out to me. And that's the one thing I wanted to address. I was going to address this at the end of the show, but I'll do it now. It's kind of one of those things where if you reach out to someone, let me share a story first real quick that might help. I was on a paranormal team out in Vegas, and someone else on the team reached out to a local author and had a question just about a location. And instead of helping them with this, because it was a location that we were doing an investigation at, and we just wanted some more information. So instead of being like, hey, okay, this is what information I have, they told them to buy the book. Don't be stingy with your information. You don't want to give everything away from your book, but you also want to be nice. You want to be nice because, if you're not nice now because of that, very few people are probably going to buy this person's book. So you just kind of want to make sure that you share information, talk, mentor. There's so many people in this paranormal field that don't want to mentor anyone. And it's not going to get you anywhere. That's just going to make it look like you're, ego driven. It's help. I don't even know how else to explain it. I wish I could say more about it, but I've run into so many people who just don't want to help. They don't want to reach out to discuss. It's crazy. It's really crazy. And it's including with books. If you don't, like for me, I don't know how to self-publish. And I've reached out several times to one or two people. I think I've even reached out to Nicole and was like, hey, I have no idea what I'm doing. Do you have any tips on self-publishing? And they're always willing to help. And the more willing you are to help others, the more people who, of course, will come to you for help, but the more people you can reach, the more people you can affect, the more people you can impact. And that's what we're here for. It's not to me, grab all the information, and then the only way you're going to share it is if they buy the book. Because chances are, outside of your personal experiences at locations, chances are they're going to find the information somewhere, whether they go investigate it themselves, whether they enjoy or not enjoy, whether they read someone else's book. So they bought someone else's book, not yours, which completely defeated the purpose of you saying, buy my book. And it's a great way to help train the next generation, not only of authors, but of paranormal researchers. If new paranormal researchers come in and their only way of education is from TV shows that they've watched, they're not gonna learn the right way to do things. They're, you know, I mean, some of the things on the TV shows, don't get me wrong, are good, but if that's their only means of learning, they're not going to properly learn. They're going to, I don't want to say pigeonholed into one method of thinking, but that's pretty much what's going to happen. They're going to keep going and keep watching the shows, which can lead them down the wrong path. So many people cause so many problems because, you know, and this is what gets me funny or makes me laugh is I'll be talking to someone about, you know, hey, X, Y, and Z, you know, that's not really true. And next thing I'll know is I'll get well, that's not what Zach said on his show. So it's kind of one of those things where it's funny. Sorry about that. Okay. And my guest that's coming in for Nicole says he just got home. He's hopping on the computer and he'll be here soon. So hopefully you guys enjoy Jeff. He's a hoot. Is all I got to say. He's hysterical. We work with the Warren Legacy Foundation together, and it's absolutely amazing to be able to work with people like him. And that's what you want to do is, you know, getting back to the mentoring is you don't only want to mentor those that are coming up behind you. You want to surround yourselves by the best people. Those of you who were here for my first episode last month, I had Joe Frankie. So, you know, Joe's he's my walking encyclopedia. I go to Joe anytime I have questions. You want to surround yourself by amazing people. And I'm going to be introducing you to more amazing people that I work with at the Warren Legacy Foundation. Next week, I have Father Kenneth. He's going to be joining us to talk about his role in the paranormal and, you know, I don't really want to say demonic roles in the paranormal, but we're going to discuss that a little bit about how everything's not demonic. I actually have Joe Frankie's daughter. I need to schedule her for a date. I have several people after I get off of here. You guys are going to see a whole bunch of dates flying in because I have a whole bunch of shows that I'm working on. But so I have Joe Frankie's daughter, the girl who wrote the Ladybug book I showed you guys a couple weeks ago. Then I also, Daryl Marston is going to be joining us. And I have a few others that I've reached out to that said they would be joining us. But like I said, I'm having slight issues on a few people in California that I'd really like to get on here. One thing, I was brainstorming earlier on how to find someone for the topic of the laws of thermodynamics. I'm actually going to reach out to one of my former professors at Florida Atlantic University. So we'll be doing that. And I think I'm going to try to get the director of the Institute of Metaphysical and Humanistic Studies in here. So lots of interesting things planning and happening. Sorry about today's guest. Like I said, there was some confusion. And even though I told her that it was Eastern a couple different times, I think she might still be thinking it's Pacific time. And so yeah, if you guys have any questions, I haven't been really watching the comments, but that's okay. You know, if you guys have any questions, and I'm trying to think of I'm waiting for Jeff to join us. So I'm so sorry, guys. But I'm trying to think real quick. I've kind of talked about everything I had on my list. So let me look. Actually, if you guys, one thing you can do too is one thing that I do for my research is, in addition, think outside the box. That's where I was going with that. Don't, you know, stick with your traditional stories. You know, one thing that, you know, don't be afraid to tell people you're a paranormal researcher. Once I tell people that, they're like, oh, let me tell you about the story I had at X, Y, and Z location. So that's a great way to get, you know, personal experiences or even leads. If you can find a location, I'll share the story real quick while I wait for Jeff. I was a volunteer at a local museum. It was called McCaw School of Mines. Love this little museum. And I felt like there was something there, but I wasn't there for that reason, so I didn't really look into it. They were hosting a fun Halloween event, and the team that I was on, we were like, you know, I went to the, you know, director of the place, and I was like, hey, wouldn't it be fun if we showed kids how to do an investigation? And he's like, oh my God, I love that idea. So throughout the event, we would take a group of kids. It was anywhere between 5 and 10 with their parents. and go to different areas of this museum. And this museum is amazing. If you look up McCaw School of Mines in Nevada, it's in Henderson. It's an above ground simulated mine experience. So when you walk in, once you get through that front entrance, you feel like you're underground. You feel like you're in an actual mine. That's how good they did this. And it was designed, I believe they said the guy who did the Indiana Jones ride at Disney. So absolutely amazing place to go to. And while we were doing these little tours, no one ever thought about anything, but we started getting activity. And now that's considered, in my eyes, one of the most haunted locations in Nevada. There was one room we went into, and my son, always thinking outside of the box. Sorry, my computer keeps beeping. Always thinking outside of the box. He had asked, is the earth round or flat? Instead of, asking your typical, who are you? Why are you here? And he got the word round in an EVP. And then he also asked, is the tomato a fruit or a plant? And fruit or a vegetable. And he got the word vegetable. So it was just kind of interesting how he would think outside the box and do different things. And we also had dowsing rod sessions in the back and dowsing rods were going, moving like crazy for yes and no questions. And there was this one train that it was from Area 51. Didn't even know that when I was investigating it until we filmed the documentary there. And so much activity, EMF spikes where they would be high by that train, but then there's like 4 other trains attached to it. Nothing on those. Heat signatures on that train were higher than the others. And then there was a little boy that several of us saw running around and we communicated with. And all of that came from us thinking outside of the box and offering to do a fun presentation style investigation. And now it suddenly became one of our most popular places that we investigated. We hosted events there. I'm going back to do the book signing. And it actually is a full chapter with not all of them because I forgot some, all of my personal experiences and what we discovered while we were investigating at that location. So definitely a lot of things. Just keep in mind some museums, for instance. The museums may not want to let people know that they're haunted. We had one location in Vegas, also casinos, like the casinos, they don't want, even though it's out there that they are haunted, they don't want to admit to it. So they kind of, so a lot of the stories you see, it's unconfirmed reports. No one's really admitting to what's happening, especially people in management. And that's mostly because people don't want to go to haunted locations. There's several cultures that if they know a building's haunted, they won't go. So in Vegas, it's real hard to get places to let us publicize that they were haunted. So you'll see in my book, there's 2 undisclosed locations. There's another location that is very popular for families to go visit, and they don't want people to know it's haunted. So if you go to different locations and they say no, don't be afraid. Don't let that get in your way. Don't let that get you down. You want to just keep going. Find another location. Keep thinking outside of the box. And you could also offer, like with some of these locations, we signed non-disclosure agreements that basically said, we were able to go in. And the one location we did, we were able to go in, investigate, but we could not bring video or photo equipment because they didn't want any evidence that there was a paranormal team in there. But we also had to sign the non-disclosure agreement saying that we wouldn't share the information, that we were just there for practice and for research. And so you might have that option ahead of you if someone doesn't want, if they say, well, I don't want people to know we're haunted, or even if they say, oh, we're not haunted, be like, well, hey, let my team come in and let us see. We're curious. We're curious to see it's there. We won't tell anyone, but we just want to see if there's anything there. It's great practice. And the more you practice at different locations, the more story ideas you're going to get. I have some fiction stories that because of some of the legends that were told at some of these locations, I can't find evidence as to anything, but one of the legends is told that this particular location we investigated had 2 male spirits, a little boy spirit, and a woman spirit. And of course, we interacted with what we believe to be that, but they said that the male spirit upstairs is the husband of the female spirit who's trapped downstairs by the spirit of the guy she was having an affair with. And then he killed the guy she was having the affair with, killed everybody but the little boy. And then the little boy ended up drowning in the pond at the location. And so it's just one of those things where it's real interesting, but if you're a writer like me and you can't find any evidence to back that up, I'm turning that into a fiction story that's based on paranormal research. So anyway, moving on, I want to thank Jeff for joining us. He's finally here. Sorry, Nicole's not coming on. I'll have to reach out to her to make sure she's okay. But Jeff, welcome to the show.
Well, hello. I'm trying to get my stuff together here real quick. I just ran in the door.
No, thank you so much for joining. I was going to have you on as a guest anyway down the road, but
yeah, that's cool.
Well, when I put the call out there for someone to join me, because like I said, I think Nicole might have the time zones mixed up.
Yeah, because she said something on her post that she said it was 10 Pacific time.
Yeah, and I talked to her after that, and I was like, it's Easter. And she's like, oh, okay, well, I'll see you in the morning. So she might have still forgot. Yeah,
she's going to be looking for a link here at about what? That would be 1 o'clock our time?
Yeah.
Yep.
But anyway, I'll have her on again because I really did want to talk to her about some of her new books because she has me writing the foreword for one of her newest books.
Oh, okay, cool.
So I was looking forward to that. So, Jeff, since this was a last minute thing, let everybody know a little bit more about you and why you're in the paranormal field.
Okay, so I'm the Midwest Regional Director for the Warren Foundation. That's kind of our tie together. I started doing this, I think like 6-7 years ago. I took a ghost hunting 101 class. I've always been interested in it. I didn't grow up in a haunted house like a lot of other people have or anything, real cool like that. But I had some experiences. So, I was interested in it and this class came up and I took this ghost hunting 101 class. It was just a fun college class, 4 weeks, no degree or certificate, or I can't call myself a doctor or anything cool like that. But, so I took that class and really I was like, okay, I think I want to do this. And I ended up, one of the instructors needed a cameraman. So I ended up joining their team for a while and we did so much in 2 years. We did a lot of like historic locations more so. We didn't do anything residential for the first 2 years, but we were out a couple times a week. So we were super, super busy. So I got a lot of experience doing it that way. Mm-hmm. And then I ended up leaving them because I wanted to do some residential stuff, so I ended up starting my own team and then that morphed into what I am today, which is Boo Productions, which really isn't so much a thing anymore because all of my cases that I take on now, I run through the foundation. So I'm pretty much a Warren Foundation investigator now.
I think most of us turn into that.
Yep.
Once we join.
Yep. But I do have, I've got unfortunately, in the foundation, we're all super, super busy. So I don't get a chance to get to do the stuff that I want to do. But, there's a lot of documentaries that I have in the works. They're just I'm not satisfied yet. So I'm not calling them done. But I do like to tell a good historical story, with one of them probably that I have the most research on is Toledo was a huge area for gambling back in the day. And for booze running because it was so close to Canada. Mm-hmm. So it was almost like a port for Canadian whiskey and stuff like that. So there's a lot of mafia history here in, some of the old buildings are haunted with what people believe are mafia people. So that's one story I want to tell for sure before I die, which could be in a couple weeks. Who knows?
With the work we do. Yeah. Who knows?
Right.
It's like the one time I was, physically attacked during a case. I was like, oh, I can't die this way because it was in a tub.
Yeah. Yep. It's funny because Joe, the first time I ever talked to Joe Frankie, I had him on my show, probably a year or so ago. Mm-hmm. And I told him, I said, it's funny because he tells this story too on all the radio appearances that he's on, but he leaves this part out of it. Although last time he corrected it. So I was pretty pleased with that. But I told him, I was like, yeah, I want to get pushed or scratched one time, just to prove that it's real. And he's looking at me and he's like, on the camera, he's like, no, you don't wish for that. I'm like, man, I just need to validate. Well, So now doing some of these cases with the Warren Foundation, you know, I've come across some darker things than what I had come across doing my Toledo stuff. And so I told him one day, I'm like, you know what, Joe, the last time he was on the show, which was a month or so ago, I was like, you know what, Joe, I take that back. Like, I don't want to get pushed or scratched anymore. Like, I've seen enough verified people that I know that it's happened to, that like, I don't need that verification. Yeah. So, but he usually leaves that part out of it. He says, yeah, I got a colleague that tells me that, you know, he wants to get pushed or scratched. And I told him, no, you don't. And then he ends it there. Like, come on, Joe.
Yeah, he's told that story on the show the last time I was on, but he didn't say who it was. I kind of had a feeling who it was, but
yep, not it. Yep.
But yeah, so actually getting back to client cases.
Yeah.
That's one thing. I used to do them all the time, but I had a heartbreaking case. I mean, the woman in tears, you know, I'm not crazy. And it's like, we've had 2 paranormal teams come into your home. You're not haunted.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, there's nothing there. I mean, to me, I find it very heartbreaking having to deal with residential cases. And I know you've had a couple that are very personal. And for the new people who are in the field, what suggestions can you offer to not take it so personally? Because that's like the hardest thing many people have.
I almost think you have to have that personality, because some people, and I do take them personally, but like I am learning to draw a line, but I don't think some people have that ability. Like, you know, I've met people that, you know, if a client were to walk away, it would just devastate them. And there's nothing, I don't think you can really prepare yourself for that. You just have to, I guess at the end of the day, I know that I've done all that I can. And, you know, sometimes too, you got to be a little stern with clients, you know, cause they, you know, we had one that she just wanted to investigate her house all the time. And she kept sending us pictures and videos. And it's like, there is nothing paranormal in these pictures. And I've asked you before, you need to stop investigating your house, because she would spend her day watching her nighttime DVR cameras, you know, and it's like, you are totally obsessed with this. We've had a team come out and there's nothing that I mean, it was a short investigation, but they didn't find anything there, which doesn't mean that there's not a haunting going on, but what you're giving us doesn't prove anything. You know, and they don't want to hear it, because a lot of times too, people don't want to hear that, well, maybe I should go get checked out. You know, they want to deny that until the end. And, you know, so they will hold on to their crappy pictures and videos and swear to God it's a ghost.
Yeah. That was actually, it was a Paranormal State episode. And it was with Lorraine Warren, actually. And they were doing an investigation because the woman was 24 hours a day. It almost felt like she was doing EVP sessions in her home. Yeah. And Lorraine was just like, you need to get her to stop that.
Yeah. Yep. And you know, and then another type of client that we'll get is, you know, and I had to be stern with this one too. It's, you know, she always says something's going on. Everybody's saying shadow figures, crosses are moving in their house. No documentation whatsoever. Like if I wake up and I've got a cross on the wall and it's upside down, my camera's out right away. You know, I'm taking a picture of that.
Right.
So I asked her to journal everything, you know, write it down. And then 2 weeks later, I asked to see the journal, and you could tell she typed it all up on her phone between the time I asked and the 10 minutes that she sent it to me. So we had to have a stern lecture, because it's, you know, I told her I want details. I want dates and times and who saw it, you know, what the circumstances were. I really need detailed stuff, because you can't expect me to come in there and set up DVR cameras for, say, 48 hours, then go home and take 48 hours of my time to watch it. And if you're not even going to simply write down a sentence or two a day, if something happens. So
and it takes more than just 48 hours to watch it, because you probably have more than one camera.
Yep.
And you have those moments where you have to rewind it, watch it again.
Yep. And especially too, if the people are there, like, let's say one camera, you see a shadow go across the wall. Well, then you got to go look for the other camera to see, okay, it was their son walking through the room. You know what I mean? It's so, it takes way more than 48 hours to watch 48 hours of DVR footage.
Exactly. So real quick, thank you, Stephanie, Kenneth, and Tammy, all members of the Warren Legacy Foundation, joining us in the comments. Thank you guys for joining us this morning. And Kenneth wants to know, how do you both deal with clients that blatantly lie to you?
I used to be nicer, but now I guess I've got more experience. I just don't put up with it anymore. I mean, I'm not mean or nasty, but like if you call me out and I see that you've got your buddies over and they're sitting there with a cooler full of beer on the deck because you're the live ghost adventures for the night, I'm going to be a jerk and I'm going to pack my stuff and not even come in. Like, obviously this isn't bothering you. This is entertainment. So, peace out. But back in the day, I probably would have stayed and mousily asked, for the guests to leave and, but not anymore. I just go in like, nah, clearly nothing's going on here. So you don't need me.
Yeah. I really haven't had any clients lie to me, but if they had, it would be more or less, it's almost along the lines of, like the case I was talking about where she was always crying, saying she's not crazy.
Yeah.
If you're not going to give me all the information I need and have it be actual, I can't help you. You need to help yourself first before we can help you. So.
And a lot of people think too that, like, if they have a paranormal issue or perceived paranormal issue, they think that we can just come in and wave a magic wand and then everything's gone and then we leave and then they just go back to living their life the way that they had. It's like, no, you're going to have to make some lifestyle changes if you don't want this to happen or come back. I mean, it's in a lot of them, they, but that's not what TV shows them. So therefore they don't know that, on TV, Amy Allen comes in and kicks everything out and, the show's over. Everybody's happy in an hour. It's great. I wish it were that easy.
I know. Yeah. We had one client who, her daughter, at least that's what we figured it out, was the daughter was dabbling in witchcraft, but didn't know what she was doing.
Yeah.
So she didn't invite something into the house, but she woke up something that was in the house.
Yeah.
And I cleansed it and everything was fine. I mean, even the house, once we got done cleansing, the house felt brighter.
Yeah.
And no additional lights were turned on, but then the daughter continued, practicing and it came right back. They ended up selling the house.
Yeah. Did you ever tell them that, hey, your daughter's got to knock this off? And okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Cause we had another team go in from our team, cause we had a pretty big team out in Vegas and they went in first. And of course that team, everything was demonic. Mm-hmm. Then they sent in, as what a lot of people refer to us as the A team.
Yeah.
Of the group. And we went in and we're like, no, it's just an angry butthead.
Yeah. Yep.
That is probably upset with what your daughter's doing.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest lies that paranormal investigators have to watch out for, and this happens a lot of times, is drug use. Mm-hmm. Like I personally, I don't judge anybody. If you're on drugs, I don't, it's not my place to judge you, but we can't work with you until you decide that you're going to get clean and sober. And that's, because they'll hide it, they'll lie about it. And then you walk through and I'm the type that maybe I shouldn't do this, but I'll go to the bathroom and look in your medicine cabinet. Mm-hmm. And if I see pain pills and things like that, or we did one where I was going to go set DVR cameras up and he wasn't there yet. And he said, yeah, just go on in the house and start working. And this guy, I really suspected he was on drugs, even though he said no. And, but we walk in and on the kitchen counter, there's all these prescriptions and none of them have him or his wife's name on them. So, I mean, there were pill bottles everywhere. And I'm like, no, we're packing up and going, so we didn't even set up there. It's like, you have to address that first. Mm-hmm. Otherwise you're going, you could be haunted, until you address that. There's no solution to the problem. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cause then the other thing too, is if you go in, and you do, cause we do our interviews video first. So we get to know the client before we even send a team in. Is I've noticed people who, when you ask them what medications they're on and for what, they're the ones that don't really use prescription medications for what they're intended for. They don't know the names. Yeah. And they don't know what it's for. But, even if someone, because there's some medications I take that I couldn't pronounce the name, but at least I attempt it.
Yeah. Yeah.
and I know what it's for, but I've noticed those that have no clue are probably the ones that are not taking them legally.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. That's prescription. I don't know. That's a whole nother thing because there's so many side effects that could be perceived as paranormal with prescriptions in combination of prescriptions. And, you almost have to be a doctor to do any kind of paranormal investigation, or at least know one.
Right. Exactly.
Although Google's great. I mean, you can look up side effects for most medications and stuff.
Yeah,
like
most
that.
of them.
Yeah.
Well, real quick, we're going to take our 11 o'clock break. Jeff, do you mind sticking around for a few more minutes to finish out the show?
Yep,
okay,
I'm
perfect.
good.
So we'll take our quick break and we'll be back in just a moment.
All right.
If you're a fan of the paranormal world, then you'll love WLTK-DB Talk Radio. Talk shows bringing you the latest on everything paranormal, cryptozoological, metaphysical, true crime, psychic readings, and more. The truth is here and now on WLTK-DB Talk Radio at WLTK-DB.com.
Well, welcome back, everybody. For those of you who are just joining us, my guest Jeff has joined us gracefully.
I could change my name to Nicole if you'd like.
You could. And I'm sorry for those. I'm sorry for those of you who are tuning in for Nicole, but I will have her on the show. Hopefully in the future, we'll get her rescheduled. But one thing I wanted to, just as we went to break, is I was thinking about we were talking about medications and how you need to look at the side effects, because it's one of those where it's not just because you're on medications or because you have mental health issues or because you're on drugs. It's not saying that you're not haunted. It opens you up to all of that. And that was the one case I was talking about in Vegas where she was always crying that she wasn't crazy. It wasn't her medications that were causing problems. It was her actual conditions. She was severely anemic. And when you look into severe anemia, it causes tactile hallucinations. And her biggest complaint was she always felt like something was touching her. Yeah. So you kind of, like you said, you need to be a doctor. And I think we have a couple in the foundation that we do refer to. When we need help.
Another one that's, I rely on her a lot is, and Stephanie is in here watching, or at least is she is a phenomenal researcher. Like she's not a doctor, but she probably has the knowledge to be one after all of the research that she does looking up these medications and conditions. And, she's always one that when I have her on interview, she asks fantastic medical questions.
She says she's still here.
Yep. Oh, I'll be nice then.
Stephanie's here. No.
Yeah. If Joe was here, I wouldn't care. I'd just talk crap anyway.
No, Joe's too busy to watch. He even responded to me that he's too busy to talk to me right now. But at least he had time to let me know. Because we have a project that we're working on, but we got to wait until after. He said after November. But I hope he gets done before that, because my next book he's writing the foreword for, and that's due before then.
Are you sure that was a wise choice?
I couldn't think of it. It was, haunted Florida lighthouses.
Yeah, probably
who better to write it than I know.
Yep, he does know haunted and he does know lighthouses, so I guess it's probably a good pick for that one.
Yeah, so I immediately thought of him when I came up with that, and that's funny because when I think of books that I'm writing about, is before I even start writing it, I think of who I'm going to have write the foreword.
Yep. I would be probably haunted bars and restaurants.
That's on my list. Haunted Florida pubs.
Yeah.
Is what I want to do, because we actually, a friend of mine in Vero Beach, he runs Indian River Hauntings, which does tours, but he's also the founder of the International Bureau of Paranormal Research. And he, former deputy for the sheriff's deputy, great guy. Had him on my show several times before I switched to this format. And he has a friend, and they do a lot of fundraising events at, it's called Paradolia Bar.
Oh, wow.
And our brewery. And what it was is the guy who bought it because he knew it was haunted, named it that for that reason. And he, that's what they work off of. And it was named just recently the most haunted location on the Treasure Coast.
Yeah, that's actually, like a lot of people, they don't want their business to have a reputation of being haunted. But man, I tell you what, if it really is and you go with it, you can really, that's a niche market, because there's a lot of people that will go to it just because it's haunted.
Right. Yeah. And that's something I was talking about before you had joined, is that like in Vegas, the hotels didn't want it. They didn't confirm it, even though it was known that a lot of the hotels were haunted and why, but the management wouldn't confirm it because people were, certain cultures won't go to that because of that. And then there was a location that families went to, and they didn't want to lose that because families wouldn't bring their kids there if it was known to be haunted. And there was all these locations. There's nothing malevolent there. I mean, it's, just some tricksters and some fun things. But Kenneth says you should do haunted snakes.
No, that's definitely a Joe forward there.
Yeah.
Yep. Did you hear the story that I set him up in Hopewell?
No.
Because of your experience at that Phantasm or whatever it was called, that convention.
Yep.
So I planted a question in the audience in Hopewell that referenced some snakes.
I wish I was there. Hopefully we can do another event like that again, but because I couldn't fly without risk of ruining what the doctors had done.
Yeah. You don't want to do that.
So, but and that's why my book signing in 2 weeks is I'm driving to it, because it's only 2 hours away, and it's like down the road from my parents' house.
Oh, okay.
But I'm hoping to have the clearance to start doing things again in November.
Good. Yeah, I still got to get that book, and I still got to get your video together.
Yes, you do. No.
Yes.
You're fine. I haven't even gone out and filmed the other, because we were supposed to go to Anaconda Dolia Presents Haunted Snakes.
It's a haunted zoo.
Where's Joe where we need him?
Yeah. He's packing his Annabelle doll for his trip to New York. He's got to make sure that she's got her seatbelt on and she's in her little car seat, and he loves that thing.
But I should be getting some books in today.
Cool.
It's either today or tomorrow. They said they should be here because I'm getting ready for that book signing. And and then if you need anything more from me for that video, let me know, because we never even made it out to John's Pass because our car started acting up, and I wasn't going to drive an hour and a half in a car that I didn't think was reliable, which is why we went out and bought the new car.
Yep. Yeah, we have the same issue. As my van is a get around town work van, and Dana's car is the one that, like, if we need to make a trip, we take that. So I'm pretty much stuck to stealing her car on the weekend sometimes if I have to go do stuff on my own.
Yeah, and that's pretty much, I mean, our car, 135,000 miles on it. Drove it from Vegas to here, and we used it. Wow. I mean, even in Vegas, we did, we would drive to Goldfield 2.5 hours, 3 hours away.
Yep.
So we were driving everywhere, and it started doing this thing where, I know this isn't paranormal, but what the heck?
Could be.
It started doing this thing where, like, if you were in traffic and it was stop and go, it would all of a sudden put on the anti-slip or whatever. And then the car wouldn't go.
Oh, geez.
So I had to turn the car off, turn it back on. The couple times it did it, it was just in, our small town.
Yeah.
But I was driving to Tampa, and it did it in morning rush hour traffic.
Oh, geez.
And I was like, that's it. I'm not driving this anymore. We're going to get a new car.
Yeah, that wouldn't be good.
Yeah. Because last thing I need to do is, with all the driving I do, is for it to break down on the, because these roads out in Florida, people think that Florida is, Disney and Orlando, and there's people everywhere, but there's some lonely roads out here.
Yep, there sure is. I used to go down there when I was a kid, and we used to go down to Sanibel Island all the time. So I do remember, there's some parts of that travel that's like, ooh, there ain't nobody out here.
Yeah, I know when I drive to my parents' house, I have about 30 minutes of city driving, and then it's Route 60, and it's Alligator Alley. And it's all swamps, and it's just this low road that goes right along the swamps, 2-lane road.
Yep.
And 2.5 hours of driving.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Yep. But anyway, go. Yes, we do need to get, I'm actually working with Ray. We're coming up with some ideas for us to do another foundation event. So hopefully Ray and I have a long list of things that we're trying to do. So, we're looking at more next spring, including several locations in Florida.
Yeah, they were a really, really good team to work with. Like, we did that investigation in Hopewell at the Beacon Theater with them. And their thinking is in line with the foundation's thinking as far as, be respectful, and we'll kick you out if you're going to try and bring a Ouija board in here, or, get confrontational or anything like that. You're gone. They just don't put up with it, which is I was glad to hear that because.
Yeah. No, Ray's a good guy. I talked to him quite a bit. His schedule's crazy. He works the morning shift, like earlier morning shift. So he's like always, and then he's busy with his kids. So it's tough pinning him down, just like it's tough pinning Joe down.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, Joe. He's hard to get a hold of sometimes. Sometimes you can't get him off the phone, and then other times it's like, dude, I need to talk to you, and it's like 4 days later.
Right. Yeah. No. It's funny because I knew he was busy, so I wasn't, but just prior to him getting busy, he had messaged me that he wasn't feeling good, and that's why he couldn't talk to me. Mm-hmm. So I messaged him, saying, hey, how are you feeling? How did the event go? And it was like radio silence. And I messaged you. I'm like, have you talked to Joe?
Yep.
Is he alive?
That trip. Yeah, that trip really wore him out. That one to Hopewell, because that's about when that was. And he's got to go through New York, New Jersey. To get there, he had to go through all these big cities. And I got stressed out just going through like Baltimore and DC. I was like, nope, I will never ever do this again unless it's overnight, because screw this traffic. This sucks. Yeah. Yep. A 3.5 hour drive ended up taking over 7.5 because of the time of day that we hit it.
Right. So. Yeah, you gotta plan that out just right.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, we did that with Phantasm. On a normal day, I'm 30 minutes from Orlando.
Yep.
But when you need to be set up at an event by 9 a.m.
Yeah. Yep.
Going through the theme park area in downtown Orlando, it's kind of, it ended up being an hour to an hour and a half drive some mornings.
Oh, wow.
But coming home, we were home in 30 minutes.
Yep. That's how my sister lived in Atlanta. And that's how Atlanta is too. It's like, depending on what time of day you leave, it could be either be 15 minutes or it could be an hour and a half. It's all depending on where you're going and what time. So,
I think that's what it's like anywhere, but it's, because that's why I like about this. I mean, certain parts of Tampa, we're 30 minutes away, depending on traffic.
Yep.
That's why I like where we're located right now. It's like, we're pretty much close to anything major.
Yeah. Well, that's cool.
Yep. And, I'm like completely lost my train of thought.
Yeah, I was looking to see if there was any more questions. Somebody ask a question quick.
No. The problem is everybody watching knows us.
Yeah. Yep. It's like I've heard your shtick before.
We've heard these stories 100 times. Yep. Move on.
That's another thing. I've listened to enough shows that Joe has been on that I could probably fill in for him if I had to, because he tells a lot of his stories. He tells the same way. And I've listened to him enough. I almost have them memorized.
Yeah. We could almost write his autobiography for him.
Yep. No, he had me doing some video work too for his presentation in Plattsburgh, or is it Plattsburgh? Okay. Yep. Plattsburgh. Yep. So yeah, I was busy doing that. He's going to talk a lot about the Amityville and Annabelle. Hey, let me turn my phone off.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another convention I'm bummed about. And it's funny, I just got the posters from my publisher.
Oh, okay.
That has, come meet the author with the copy of the book cover on there, and then the convention name on the bottom. And I was like, oh.
Yeah. Yep.
Like, I'm not going to that one.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I actually considered going to that one. It was either go to that or go to the Hopewell thing, because I wanted to meet as many of the members as I could.
Right.
And but that's 14 hours for me. I was surprised it was that far away, and it actually had me go up into Canada to get there instead of this way.
Yeah, I know when I was researching flights, they the cheapest flights had me landing in Canada.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't have a passport.
Yeah. Yep.
I have a passport card,
yeah,
but I don't have a passport, so I can't fly.
Yep. Yeah. Back in the day, at least. So Toledo, before gambling was allowed and stuff like that, a lot of Toledo people went up to Canada to gamble right across the river in Windsor. And you could just say, yeah, we're going to the casino for a couple hours, and okay. But now it's like, man, you got to do strip search and everything to cross the border and get back.
Yeah, it's funny because we did a cruise, and we was one of the ports in Mexico, and it was just to get into Mexico.
Yeah. Yep. And like, they stand there with machine guns.
Yes.
Yeah, I've been on a cruise there. Yeah, when you get off the boat, you're greeted with the police, and they've got semi-automatic or automatic machine guns that are there to greet you.
Yeah, it was definitely eye-opening.
Yeah. Yep.
But Stephanie wants to know, how do you present evidence to a client?
Well, the more times you can mention demon, the better.
Mm-hmm.
That's been my experience.
Yep. And the more times you can fake the evidence. No.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Pictures are good with Photoshop. I mean, those are always.
Use the iPhone Ghost app.
Yep. Okay. So I've got like one client in particular right now, that it hasn't been a present evidence stage yet, but I do have some, I guess, insider information as to what we think is bothering her. And it's the absolute worst case scenario for her. And it's not a demon or anything like that. It's, after talking with her enough, it's her absolute worst case. So I've kept that piece of evidence in my pocket. Mm-hmm. For one, it's coming from, and I trust these mediums that have told me this, but it's coming from mediums. So it's not evidence. It's a very likely opinion, but I don't want to tell her what it is without concrete evidence. And even then, I think I'm going to try and get rid of it before I present it to her. Mm-hmm. She knows something's there. She knows something's going on. I've told her I'm going to have to come and probably deal with it in person. And, but I don't want to tell her who we believe it is, because it'll definitely scare her more. So I guess the best way to present evidence for me is, like, if you can do it with, I'll never lie to a client. Like, if I do think something is demonic or anything like that, like, they're going to have to be told that, because that's dangerous if you withhold that. But, I definitely try to present anything to them to produce the least amount of fear that is possible, because, that's just the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. We don't want to run around scaring the crap out of people, because then people like us get called and have to go clean it up.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. No, basically what I do is you can take all the photos you want. You can take all the EVPs and video evidence, but most of the time I won't share any evidence with them unless there was a personal experience attached to it. Yeah. Like, we were in the room, we heard a knocking, and then here's an EVP right after. Yep. Or we were in the room and we saw a shadow move across the wall, check out what we caught on video in the next room. Yeah. Kind of things like that. And one thing that I do is I put it onto the Google slideshow. Okay. It's kind of like we do our presentations. Yeah. I'll put it on there for the client. Okay. And that way it's kind of, can present it, show the photos, and it's easier than, because I've seen people, they'll go into their computer, open up, try to find the file folder, and then open up the, video, click the video, close the video, open the.
No, I do the same thing with my video editing software. Mm-hmm. Is that I'll actually put a video together of everything, because I can type where I need to, I can slow things down, I can boost volume, I can which I always present it raw first, and then if I want to turn the volume up or something, I'll put it in there a second time and note that volume is increased 50% or something like that. So any adjustments I make, I always note that, but I always present the raw thing first. Yeah. And I don't tell them what the raw, like, if I think it says something, I don't say it in the first clip that I show them, because I want them to, okay, what do you hear? Because a lot of times once you tell somebody that, I hear it says, get out, Satan, that is what they're going to hear no matter what. So,
Yep, exactly. And I like that you put it in one kind of presentation, because that's the one thing is we did when I was on the team that I was on, it's everybody on the team did their own explanation of what evidence they caught. And it took us like 4 hours just to do, the reveal, I guess you would say, is how they did it. Yep. And I'm like, no, we all should have sent all of our evidence that, we listened to our own, okay, we think this is evidence, send it to one person. Yeah. They, put everything together, and then it's presented to the client like that. And it was a long. Yeah.
We had one house where it was, this guy had a rental house, and he had called us because some contractors kept getting scared away. They were doing the job at night as side work, and they were seeing things and hearing people talking in the house. And, so a couple contractors left. So this guy called us and he's like, hey, can you come check it out and see what's going on here? So I never in my life expected the amount of clear EVPs as I got from this house. And some of them we heard with our ears, you know, and these contractors weren't lying. I didn't see anything there ever, but we definitely heard, you know, like it would be like people were talking. It was just weird. And then the most random things that they were saying, like there's one, you hear this knock and then it goes hammer, safety, wood, clear as that. And it's like, but why are you saying that? Like, it makes no sense. You know, you ask a question like, what'd you have for dinner, you know, to the spirits, and they're like hammer, safety, wood. Like it wasn't making sense. But maybe it was residual. Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah. Because that's what I was thinking when you said that. I'm like, but would residuals say that? I mean, that's almost something like you would get off of an ovolus.
Yeah.
Where it'd be the individual words.
Yeah. But but like I said, it was weird because there was knocking, tapping, almost like a hammer tapping. And then it said hammer, safety, wood, clear as could be. There was no mistaking that that's what it said.
Right.
And then there was another one where, and I don't know, maybe you've had this happen before. So we have, you know, we always have multiple pieces of equipment going. And anytime we catch an EVP, we go check the other devices and see, okay, is it on this one? Is, you know, sometimes it's on a camera, but not on the recorders, or the opposite. Well, this thing happened on 3 different devices. It happened on the lady that was there investigating. It happened on her recorder, but she heard it as Melissa. She's like, oh my God, something says my name. And if you listen to it on her recorder, it sounds like it's saying Melissa. But then the other two devices, it clearly said it was a guy going, I'll slap you, you know, on the other two. It's like, so how does that happen? How does it change? You know, because it was the exact same second in time that it happened. So, you know, have you ever gotten that where something is completely different on 2 different devices at the same time?
The only closest thing that we've come to that is on the one home that we were investigating, and we believe it was a male spirit, female spirit, and then a child spirit were at the home. And on one recorder, we had asked, you know, because what tarot card, the devil tarot card was missing from the tarot deck that the daughter had. And, you know, the investigator said, were you the one that took the tarot card from her deck? And we get a woman going, maybe. Yeah. On one of our recorders, but at the same exact time, there was a deep male voice that was like, no.
See, and that's, and another thing too, I like to note when I set equipment up is, where is it? Because if this recorder's here and the camera's back here, and then the other cameras or recorders farther back, and it's loud on this one and more faint on that one, you can kind of gauge where the spirit was in the house or where the voice came from. So, right. Yeah. And that almost sounds like maybe you had 2 spirits that were farther away, and you caught one on one and one on the other, you know? Yeah. So that's kind of cool.
But it was real interesting. And it was like a playful maybe.
Yeah. Yep.
And it was like, okay, you know, who's lying here?
Well, the best EVP that we captured on that one I just told you about was, this was so loud. Like, I can't believe we didn't hear it, but the spirit just goes, oh, orgy. Almost like, you know, the Grimace guy or the McDonald's or the Kool-Aid man, right? You know, like, oh, orgy. Like, I was like, okay, that makes no sense, because we weren't talking about anything orgy related, but, you know, I guess maybe getting a little frisky in the spirit world, maybe. I don't know.
Oh, they are frisky in the spirit world.
Yeah. Yep.
We were investigating a location that used to be where the old Copa Club was in Vegas.
Oh, okay.
And someone grabbed my butt.
Yeah.
And no one was around me. And it wasn't just a tap, it was a slap. Like, like the mobsters would do with the waitresses at the time. Yep. And I just was like, in the middle of our investigation, I yell out, who slapped me in the butt? And then we get an EVP clear as day. It was me.
Yep. I've been waiting for that to happen. Unfortunately, it's never happened to me yet. So, oh well.
Yeah. No, it's like, I just want to know who me was.
Yeah. Was it a man's voice, or?
It was a deep man's voice.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was like he was proud of it.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. That's how they do.
It almost reminded me of the scene from Liar Liar, where Jim Carrey gets out of the elevator and turns around.
It was me. Yeah, that was funny.
That was the tone of voice that the guy had.
Yeah. Yep.
And we even picked it up on, because someone had a spirit box on the other side of the room. And they even they're like, it just said it was me.
Oh, wow.
And we got the EVP at the same time. So it was really, really interesting.
Yep. That's a lot of things too, that I found that, a lot of times what the spirit box says correlates with an actual EVP on a recorder. Like you'll get the same thing in two different times, but it's the same moment, and it's or one before the other. I've had that happen a lot too.
It's almost like you had said, as far as loudness, it could be the speed of light, speed of sound.
Yep.
Maybe they said it over here, but by the time it actually reached, it was a second or two later. Who knows what happens in the paranormal?
Yeah. Yep.
In the paranormal realm.
Yeah. A lot of that is above my pay grade, especially when you start, Chris likes to talk about like the quantum physics and all that. It's like, man, that I know nothing. I'm tapping out. Which, I probably should learn a little bit about it because, I think it does have a lot to play in what we're doing. So, yeah. I
have several shows that I want to talk about, like Heisenberg's principle, the laws of thermodynamics and how I'm just trying to find I want to get more scientists, not just paranormal researchers in for those shows.
Yeah.
So they can talk about the science method of it. And then I can translate that into how we can use it as a paranormal investigator.
We had a new member that we interviewed the other night that got accepted, and she's doing some really cool stuff with residual haunting, experiments. And it's, so once she gets settled in the foundation, I think I'm going to ask her to come up with some kind of guide that maybe some other of us can do, while we're out to help in her experimentation. Because one story she told was that her husband comes home every day at a certain time and does a certain thing with his keys. He puts them where they belong and then walks through into the kitchen or whatever the process is. He does it every day. So just as an experiment, she told him to not do that day. But then she was talking to her daughter in the kitchen, and her daughter said, "Oh, Dad's home." And so she's like, "Well, no, he's not actually." "Well, yeah, he is. I heard him." So did that residual imprint, did her daughter actually hear that, or just, something click in her brain that was like, this is the time, it's because he didn't, he went, I guess, to the neighbor's house or something just to switch things up. And, but she's done other experiments with like residual. She said one of her goals is, and this would be pretty cool to do, is she wants to go back to the house that she grew up in to see if there's any residual energy from like her and her brothers and sisters and things like that. Like if they can catch any EVPs that sound like them. So,
that would be interesting.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It was a good idea.
Cool. Well, thank you, Jeff, for joining last minute. I truly appreciate you stepping in. And like I said, I'll reach out to Nicole to make sure she's okay. I'm sure she is. She's probably just still sleeping.
Time thing, or they do those rolling blackouts there in California.
Yeah, so. that too. So, but I'll make sure I get Nicole on. If not, I will do an interview somehow and get it up at least on my YouTube page with her. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to send it to me. I will share Jeff's information and the Warren Foundation information on the Exploring the Paranormal website and the Facebook page. You can also find us at explorationparanormal.com, where I'll have a lot of the information there as well. And you can also check out the radio website, our Facebook page, WLTK-DB radio. And
you have you have the archived shows, correct?
For my shows?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, because your guest that you had on last week was fantastic, I thought. So I recommend people go back and listen to that. She was really
I
good.
Love Christy.
Yeah.
And I did that actually, I put on my page, but I'll actually make sure I share that out again because that would be on the radio show's YouTube channel. Yep. So, okay. Cool. Well, perfect. Thank you again for joining us last minute, Jeff. Thank you everybody for watching. And next week we will be here live with Father Kenneth Torres, and he'll be talking about a whole bunch of different things. So we'll talk to you guys next time. Have a great day.
See you.
The truth is here and now on WLTK-DB Talk Radio. WLTK-DB.com.